right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Mike Farber, Director of Life Sciences for Mountain Valley MD. And Mike, it's always great to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you too, Steve.
So we want to do a bit of an update on the biosafety level 4 lab study that you and I have talked about in the past. We'll do that in just a second. But first, maybe just remind everyone a little bit about what this study is going to do.
What we're trying to prove with this study is that solubilized ivermectin, Mountain Valley's QuickSol technology, is able to achieve faster viral clearance in a transgenic model that replicates the human condition of COVID-19 infection. So once we do that, from there, we will move into hopefully human trials. But it's also important to realize that with what's happening in the world today is that we've seen the advent of a lot of variations. In Japan, they've had a variant of COVID-19 come forth. Brazil has even a number of variants. Some of them are even capable of co-infecting the same person. We've seen a new variant come out of South Africa that we'll talk about a little bit more, a UK variant. So we know that these viruses have a propensity to mutate and mutate very quickly. A lot of companies that have put out this first generation of vaccine, and you remember we talked about that, that they're now finding that the South African variant is reducing the efficacy of these vaccines. Some of these vaccines show anywhere from 10% to 40% effectiveness against these new variants. So this is a concerning, part of the story. And I think ivermectin can prove to be one of the arrows in the arsenal that we need to treat ivermectin.
Now, is that the reason why you wanted to add the South African variant to this lab study, is just what you were talking about there?
Exactly. It's to show that the difference in ivermectin activity is not affected by the variants. Ivermectin interferes with viral replication, unlike in a way that the vaccines prevent viral infection. So these are two very different mechanisms, and we believe ivermectin will be substantially the same over a large number of variants. And we intend to prove that by adding the South African variant into our study.
Now, Mike, we want to mention that part of it, the South African variant. That's going to be added, obviously, to the lab study. But we should also remind everyone that ivermectin can not only benefit for humans, but also animals as well. And that's another major part of this, because we're seeing some development of some things around the world as far as animals to human.
Right. One of the things that just came out a few days ago was that in Russia, you now have the transmission of H5N8, which is an avian flu and highly lethal in poultry that has now been jumping into humans. And previously, you had something which was related to that called H5N1, which in a number of instances over the last decade has jumped to humans with fairly lethal effect. You have lethality of more than 60% in all of the recorded cases. As a matter of fact, there's a report by the WHO that predicts that if this type of virus, H5N1, jumps to humans, you could see lethality between 20 and 40%. And if it becomes transmissible in humans, we're going to have a pandemic that makes COVID look relatively tame. So what Mountain Valley is doing, because of our QuickSol technology, we're able to do treatments in poultry and in other husbandry animals that are currently not accessible to basically any way in the world. We can inject poultry with ivermectin, solubilized ivermectin. That can't be done currently. We can inject husbandry animals in a way that achieves much faster viral clearance. And therefore you have less propensity to mutate and less propensity to jump to human hosts. So we believe that treating animals is the way to prevent outbreaks of pandemics that are caused by zoonotic infections from animals jumping to the humans. And this is honestly, I think, as important as treating COVID-19 in the current outbreak, is being able to deal with the potential threats that come from these viruses that exist in husbandry animals and are in close contact with their human hosts.
Okay. And Mike, last question. Even adding the South African variant doesn't adjust the timelines at all? You're still on time?
timeline. Basically, what we have to do is we have to basically treat one and then the other, but in the way that it's being done in the lab, it will not drastically affect the timeline in any way, shape, or form.
All right, perfect. Hey, Mike Farber, Director of Life Sciences, thank you so much. Great to see you again.
Great to see you, Steve.
All right, there's Mike Farber from Mountain Valley MD.